Welcome to the first episode of the Savvy Founder podcast. I'm so excited that you decided to tune in and you are here joining me on this journey. As I was thinking of how should I start this podcast off, what kept coming up is the importance of being savvy in business. And so that's what this first episode is going to be diving into. How many times have you heard the importance of vision being stressed to you? Have you ever had an amazing vision for your business or what you're trying to create? And maybe that vision didn't turn into reality exactly how you were hoping, or maybe you lost some steam along the way. If you've experienced this, or if you would like to avoid experiencing this, then this episode is for you. So, there's this quote that really comes to mind that anchors this in for me. And it's by Thomas Edison. And it says, "Vision without execution is hallucination." Let that sink in for a second. I'm going to repeat it actually. Vision without execution is hallucination. When it comes to making your vision come true, it does require execution. And I think so often in business, the way that people operate in their business and how they run their business, it makes the vision that they have turn into a pipe dream. It makes it where it becomes inevitable for the success to actually equal more work. It makes it where it starts to feel unpleasant. We start to recreate a 9 to 5 in business. And that's why, for the savvy founder, I think it's so important to not just think of execution as this is what has to be done. How can I get all these things checked off? But to go a step farther and to ask yourself, how can this be done better? How can I make this easier for myself? How can I do this, the vision? How can I fulfill my vision and simplify it? How can I get to my goal and not have to jump through so many dang hoops? When you start to look past that initial resistance that you're experiencing and you lean into the opportunity that is provided through the resistance, that's when you're starting to step into being the savvy founder in your business. So let me give you a really good metaphor of like how you can think about the visionary versus being savvy in your business. A visionary founder is someone who's super clear. They are forward thinking in their business. They often have big picture thinking. There's so much creativity, and you have that ability perhaps to inspire other people to buy into their vision of the future. You're a dreamer. You see possibilities where maybe other people see problems. But on the other hand, a savvy founder is someone who not only has that vision, but they have that practical knowledge and skills to turn that vision into reality. You understand, if you're marketing, you know how to market, you know how to navigate the different complexities of running a business. And even if you don't know the answer, you have that, just like that skill of resourcefulness and being able to make decisions that really drive growth and success so that you're always going forward. And I think of this as like a ship and its captain. And this is like way I kind of envision how is it more valuable to be savvy versus just being a visionary. Let's say, for example, that the visionary founder is a captain. And this captain is looking through their spyglass and they see a beautiful unexplored island off in the distance. The captain's so excited, they're inspired, they talk to their crew and they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many like riches that are right there." And even though there's so much enthusiasm, there's so much hype, there's so much passion around getting to this unexplored island, this captain does not know how to navigate the ship, does not know how to deal with the storms or to manage the crew effectively. This is the visionary founder. This is the person who just has that vision and they're not yet leaning into everything else. And on the contrast, like on the other side, you have the savvy founder. And so if we go back to this captainship analogy, then your savvy founder is the captain who not only sees the island, they see it, but they also know how to like plot the course to get there. They have their map. They know how to steer the ship. They know of, okay, there's weather conditions that are coming up. Let me like see how I can handle this. Let me plan forward. They're able to keep the crew motivated and efficient. And the vision, they still have vision. They have the vision of going to the island and getting the riches and all of the things, but it's backed up by expertise and experience or information like wisdom, right? In contrast, the savvy founder is a captain who not only sees the island, they know how to get there, they know how to steer the ship, they're gonna be able to handle like weather conditions that could have potentially thrown things off course. They're motivated, they're able to keep their crew motivated and make sure everything is running efficiently. And so the whole point of this is that, yes, vision is crucial, of course, to set the direction, right? Both of these captains saw the island. They were like, that's where I'm trying to go. But savviness is what gets you to that destination. It's the combination that makes someone truly successful in what they're doing. It's not just about you sitting there and saying, I know where I want to go, but it's making sure that you have what you need to set yourself up for success. Like this captain, they had to know, okay, there's different weather conditions that tend to happen here. How am I going to navigate that if that happens? Or, yeah, I did learn how to steer this ship. I didn't just like hop on here, like we're going for it. There's a plan, their strategy, their structure behind them that makes it where their success becomes more inevitable than just having the vision alone. Hopefully, this is landing. A way that I've actually experienced this personally in my own life is as of right now, at the time of this recording, beginning of 2024, and I have huge, massive goals for this year of like clients that I can't wait to work with, programs that I'm going to be running, revenue, profit goals, all of this. This is my vision. That's the vision part of it. And at the same time that I have this vision, I also have an infant, and life does not have as much time as it used to have. And so I could look at this, and this could be something that could actually hold me back in the pursuit of achieving my vision. But where this changes from just being like the visionary person of like, I have this big thing, how am I going to make it happen, to diving into the savviness is like, I know that what I value is I value taking time soaking in nature daily. I value moving my body regularly. I value being present with my family. And so, in order to make this happen, it's not just having that vision. That's amazing, but anyone can write down goals and actions. Let's just be honest here. What makes it savvy is that I have to look at my business holistically. So I'm looking at what offers do I have? Am I able to leverage my time with those, knowing that I have an infant and that I don't have an abundance of time? Like I cannot just I'm not in the place to fill out my calendar with one-on-one clients right now. So making sure that one, does my business strategy match what it is that I'm trying to do? Does it match my vision? How am I going to show up for my community? How can I do it in a way that's super impactful, but like I said, matches the things that are the constraints that I currently have? Or I have to think of it like, how can I just be more potent, more impactful with the time that I do use in my business and making sure that I'm only focusing on the things that matter the most? Can you start to see where it goes from here's this vision that we typically map out to how can we be savvy about it? And I think sometimes we boil this down to just like work smarter, not harder, which leads to a conversation of delegation, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the skill of tapping into being resourceful and setting yourself up for success in your business. I think so often we plan forward thinking that what if all of these things go right? And we don't necessarily plan for, well, okay, if something didn't go quite as I planned, how could I adjust? And maybe it's not about so much of having all the contingency plans written out because I don't have that. I feel like that's like wildly unrealistic to be honest, but it's like having that flexibility and knowing that when those things come up, I have moves planned for myself. Maybe that means batching ahead of time for when life gets crazy or, I think you're getting the idea. Anyways, getting passionate about this here. But I look at my business holistically, and that's one of the key ways that I lean into being savvy in business. And I think when we start to do that, one, we start to give ourselves so much more grace. Like we're not machines. So let's stop pretending that we are and that it's just like goal and then voila, we're there. But I think sometimes we need to think about it more than just the actions that get us there. But I don't even want to get into the whole topic of like goal setting and what I think about that. So maybe that should be another episode. Anyways, okay. So going back to my business and showing up, the only way that it will be possible for me to grow my business the way that I want is by leaning into opportunities. And something that I've learned in being more savvy is that obstacles are great highlighters for where you have opportunity. So if I look at things from a lens of obstacles right now, I could say that I don't have enough time, or I need to just wait until my baby's older, or insert any random excuse here. A really like popular story that I think that everyone knows is about the co-founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, who is often considered to be a visionary in lots of ways. Like he had a grand vision for the technology, for how it would change the world. And he was really focused on like the aesthetics, the user experience. But he wasn't just a dreamer. He also demonstrated business savvy in lots of ways. But in spite of this, there were times when his visionary approach just seemed to kind of overshadow some of the business acumen. Jobs was eventually forced out in 1985, as you probably already know, due to disagreements over management styles and like the direction of the company. And it was like during this time that some could argue that his visionary qualities weren't matching with enough of the business savvy side. However, you fast forward 13 years later, and when he returned to Apple, he brought with him some lessons learned from his time away. So he still had these huge ideas, but he was able to show like so much more understanding of the market and more strategic approach to business. And that combination of vision and savviness is what led to revolutionary products that we're all still using today. When you think about, I don't know if we're using iPods anymore because we have our phones, but like the iPhone, the iPad, and really like resurge. Apple was able to really take over again as an industry leader. And I think that just shows the example of, yes, it is so powerful to be visionary. And visionaries can have groundbreaking ideas. They are able to solve problems in ways that maybe most people never even consider, to be honest. But it's really that combination of vision and savviness that drives to success. Even if someone is as visionary as Steve Jobs, it's needed that he has to balance those big ideas with practical business knowledge and skills. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're such big dreamers that we get caught up in the big vision. I think sometimes we don't set ourselves up for success on the part of like, how can we actually achieve it in the way that we want to? A common mistake that people make when they're not being savvy is they don't have the systems in place to support success. And they know that their business could possibly crumble under the increased volume of them actually realizing their vision. Let me say that another way. Perhaps you are currently planning a launch. Perhaps you are currently planning a new product release. And if you have been putting together like your offer and your messaging, that's amazing. And I would like you to like ask yourself the question of, have you actually set yourself up for success? Have you set your business up in a way that makes it so that when you are going and you are seeing all these people joining your container, joining your new offer, you are not just creating more work for yourself? If you start to plan like that, that's a way that you can step into being savvy. And like when you are able to do that, to me, that is the definition of you're doing it. You're doing it because you're not just getting the result in a way that's crushing you, you're getting it in a way that it's actually leveraged. And when we start to leverage ourselves, when we start to make sure that we actually have the capacity to realize the vision that we have, that's when the extraordinary ideas turn into reality. So, like I said, having the capacity to act on the visions you have. That's what being savvy is all about. It's not like don't limit yourself. And I think if you feel limited, that is an invitation to where can you start to embody more savviness? It's about how can you expand your capacity in terms of what your business can handle, but also around what you can handle as a person. For me, when I look forward this year, there's so much expansion that is required in terms of capacity, expansion in what my business can handle, but also what I can handle as a person, what my nervous system can handle, how many clients I can hold, and making sure that I have the tools and the structure set up for myself to make my vision become a reality with as much ease as possible. I think sometimes what tends to happen is in the beginning, people are experiencing fear of failure and it holds them back from being savvy. And I think it then transitions into fear of success. So let me give you an example. In the beginning, something that tends to happen is when you're experiencing fear of failure, it tends to show up in not enoughness, right? Like what I have to say is not enough, what I'm offering is not enough. And that tends to look like perfectionism or waiting to make things happen because there's something that's going to make it better. And I think for that one, if that's where you're at, my thought is this. When you go ahead and just start doing it, you will learn so many more lessons than you trying to prepare when you just start to show up, the time that you would have spent waiting is the time where you start to lean into refinement. That's probably gonna be a separate podcast episode. Anyways, that's one way it can show up. Another way is later on, like I said, it tends to turn into like fear of success. So this is like typically when people have more your business is growing, you have revenue, you have clients that are coming in, and maybe you're planning your next program launch. And then you have this thing of like, okay, yeah, all these people are probably going to sign up, and you instantly feel overwhelmed with the idea of everything that you're going to have to do. And that is turning into the fear of success. And I think whenever you are realizing that you've switched from that fear of failure of I don't know to w I'm gonna create a how do I say this? I'm gonna create a restriction. When you know that what you're about to do in your business is gonna create a bottleneck, that is another invitation for you to lean into being savvy because on the other side of overcoming that bottleneck, whether that is I can't onboard that many clients at once, or I just don't have the capacity to take on any more clients, or how am I going to manage all of these people? Whatever that looks like for you, I think once we start to overcome that, that is when we really step into the vision and seeing the success that we really wanted to see. And I think sometimes we just don't plan for that side of things. We're just like, let's go, let the people come. And we're like not planning for the comfort around it. And it's not that it is easy. I actually don't think it's easy, but I do think it does get to be simple. And so, really, what I'm talking about, if I had to boil this entire episode down to a couple sentences, is that when you begin to really be savvy in your business, what you are really doing is you are making that switch from building your business and running your business. You are making the switch from being the person who is like tightly holding on for dear life in your business to allowing your business to run and to actually achieve the future that you want for yourself. And I think sometimes in that process of making that switch, we kind of cock block ourselves. But you were meant to be a CEO, you were meant to be a founder. You didn't have this idea for no reason. You've come so far, and if it's just this feeling of overwhelm or, "Oh my gosh, it's just not happening the way I want," and, "Oh, my business could easily crumble under the pressure of me growing," which is I know what you want to do, then lean into being savvy. And if this is something that is totally your jam, if you're like, oh, I like this topic, then tune in to more episodes of this podcast. We're going to be talking a lot more about things like this. With that, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Savvy Founder podcast. Make sure to rate and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you'd like, go ahead and head on over to Instagram and share your favorite part and tag me in it at Essentially Janae. I would love to hear from you. With that, I'll see you next week.